Okay. Let's just take a look at where we are right now. And again, this is just a little bit of housekeeping. Obviously, this is week 6, and you should have uploaded the work that's already due here. We've gone through and done those workshops, so the workshop credit should not be any issue, and you don't have any exams, so you should be good to go. Now, of course, next week we've got spring break, so there are no classes. And as I had said before, we're working ahead. So when you hit week 8, you've got a couple of exams there. That's pretty much that for week 8, although we'll start, I think we'll be at a point where we'll start to put our toes in the water a little bit working with Microsoft Access. Let's see, we've done 10. And just to see exactly where we are, I went ahead and pointed that in the resources file. And we're going to be looking at, as it talks about tracking inbound delivery, custom sorts, macros, and command buttons, some things that we can do to automate a few of the features in Excel. Now, the files, I think, are already loaded over there. And let's look at that. And we're working on case 12, basically. Let's see, yeah. Here's this is from the templates file. That one, here's another, and the rebold. And each of these use the and these are for 12. Those use the or have some macros embedded in them, and you can see I've got that for you there. Chapters 25, and which is in the first zip the first zip file. And then chapter 89, and that is over there in the Excel zip file number 2, and then you have the practice files back in chapter 27. So there's a variety of files there for you, and we're going to look at this process of developing macros, etc., and how we can use them. And let me go back over for a moment and take a look for 13. And I have a 13 done for you. And in that one, if I'm not mistaken, that'll be the last Excel case. And we're going to look at pivot tables. Well, let's go ahead and start with this XLS 12 done. And go ahead and download it. Okay. And this is one of those cases that over the years I've worked on and tweaked a little bit. And we're going to learn something about macros and how we can use them to automate tasks for us when we're working with a spreadsheet. So I'm going to take this XLS 12 done and throw it over here on the desktop. All right. And we'll go from there. So I'll open it up for just a moment. Now, when you have a file that has a macro in it, then you're going to get some multiple warnings. And let me show you what I'm talking about. It's to say protected view, and I'll enable editing. Okay, and it's going to give me another security warning saying, hey, this thing has a macro. And just click enable content. Now, a macro is really nothing more than just a copy of your keystrokes. And so when you do some create a macro, you just do a set of keystrokes, boom, it's done. Now, if you want to see down here below, and I have those for you, these are the macros when you go down into the project area or the macro area in the file, and you'll see those. And there are 3 of them. One of these was they sorted the vendors, and what they'll give you here is the range of cells that are used, and then just in sequence like how you sorted them, the range that you used to sort, etc. That's all there for you. Same thing with the FAST. This is a company that was looking at its vendors and their delivery times. Let's look at this for just a second and kind of put it into a little bit of context. So what we've got here is we've got the vendor name, okay, vendor number, the order number, item number, the description, a whole set of these dimensional kinds of things in the item cost, the quantity, the cost per order, and these AP terms. And what they are talking about are the accounts payable terms. And if you look at those, this second one here that says 1.5% net 41, what they're saying to that is we'll sell this stuff to you, okay? Pardon me. They've given us a deal because this is a payable. They've given us a deal, and if we paid everything within 41 days, we get a 1.5% net cap, 1.5% discount. And then you'll see the rest. They want it net 30, net 45, etc. So those terms are useful for us. And then we have a promised ship date. This is when they said they'd ship it, okay? And then a promised transit time and the actual arrival time. Okay, so the very last thing over there is the days overdue. Now you're going to notice that we have some that are like -2, and the logic of it's pretty simple. They promised to ship it on the 23rd. They promised it would take 4 days to get to me, and the actual arrival date was the 25th. So they got to me 2 days early. Okay, got me? Now, this is a case that's, imagine, that you're buying stuff online from somebody and they ship it to you. That would be the way at this point in time. Now, if you go to work for somebody who's part of a supply chain, and what I mean by that is you have somebody who makes stuff or assembles stuff, and then they ship it to somebody who distributes it, and then the distributor sends that stuff to people who retail it, or they just send it outright to the customer. Those things have changed a little bit, but this is a business-to-business situation, and so we're trying to look at these vendors and do some evaluation with them, but have a sense of how well or not they're doing. So this Eagle Technology, they did okay by us, for the very simple reason they got it to us for 2 days early. They got it to us 2 days early. Okay. Now, if you look at you and you come down to cutting edge technology, all right, it's the same process. They promised to ship it on the 2nd. They said it's going to take 6 days. I got it on the 7th, so I got it a day early. Now, sometimes that's good and sometimes that's not. You say, what are you talking about? Well, one of the reasons I teach this course is because I've lived some of these cases and gone through it. And if you're talking about perishable goods, for example, and you have limited storage space, if you have a vendor who delivers too early, okay, you may have a problem because all of your storage space is occupied and you plan to empty it out the next day, but now you have a problem of trying to shift stuff as it comes into what we call your inbound area. And that's where the stuff arrives from whoever sends it to you. And then you got to move things around and it becomes a problem. Sometimes if it's early, that's good news, especially if it's not perishable. Although, as we've seen, inventory comes at a cost. It has a fixed cost and a variable cost, just like as we talked before about the total cost equation. So these figures, you always have to put these numbers into context, but we're looking at how quickly or how slowly do they get stuff to us, okay? Do they get it to us just in time? And you're going to hear that out there when people talk about just-in-time inventory, and what they mean is you have an ordering pattern that you use everything you need up to the point where you've got maybe a few days of inventory left and it arrives at that time. So you minimize the amount of carrying costs, of storage costs. And those systems, especially if they involve a whole bunch of locations, are very, very sophisticated. That's why I've said before, and I will encourage you, go out and look at the field of logistics, distribution, especially if you're a marketing student, but marketing and management students especially, because if stuff doesn't get there on time or it doesn't arrive undamaged, or if it doesn't, or if you don't send the right stuff, you've lost a sale and you've really created a problem for yourself. And And so they're always looking for bright young people that'll work hard, who are willing to maybe put in some of the time and the hours to get those kinds of things accomplished. And the field's just going to continue to grow. And you know, I've said this before, and I have a lot of times people will kind of turn their eyes will go in the back of their head. I believe that next 20 years that distribution companies are going to become more valuable than tech companies. If you're going to sell stuff in a global supply chain, if you're going to sell stuff on the internet, you got to get it there. You just have to. And there are some nice videos over on YouTube about how stuff gets from point A to point B, where it's made. Just even your cell phone, you'd be astounded at all of the logistics that are involved in getting those to you. So these folks this is something that probably someone opens up every morning and they take a look at this, so they want to automate it. So let's look at this first little square here. It says sort by vendor, and let's click that. And what it has done is it's put those vendors into what? We have an idea of do we have an idea of how they're put together there? You'd want to look at it and see what we've got there. We've sorted them by vendor. And if you'll notice, we've got these vendors in here in descending order, or some kind of descending order. We'll click this back. Okay. Now, we're going to look at those who we're going to sort by slow. These are the ones who get stuff to us overdue. That sort by vendor, for all intents and purposes, is something you could click on. But what you're really interested in are these two: sort by the fast delivery and sort by slow. So these are the people who are slow. They're not getting stuff to us on time, and that can become highly problematic for us. If we have a customer who expects us to get stuff to them, then we have a problem. Now, probably where you've experienced this the most, but maybe you didn't understand what was going on, was when you've gone into a place to eat, maybe a large retail franchise operation, and you order something and they tell you we don't have it. And you're sitting there going, why don't you have it? Well, maybe they didn't do their ordering properly. Maybe they had more people come in and purchase that item than they thought they would. Maybe something happened, the freezer in the back where they stored the stuff died on them. It can be any one of a number of things. But when you get everything there and your meal assembled, etc., it is in some ways almost like a miracle because of all of the logistics that have to occur for your local Applebee's or your Chick-fil-A or whoever to have the stuff there for you. Because they really have to put the maximum amount of space they need to have is people sitting there eating, because that's how they get paid. So you'll notice here we've got these folks on sort by slow, okay? And then we've got, and let's do the sort by fast delivery. Click that. And again, here are the people who get the stuff to us the fastest. Now, if you click on File, okay, and you're going to want to go and take a look to see, and again, we talk about this, to see if we've got any kinds of issues going on, like protecting the workbook, if we want to do that, or inspect it or manage it. You always want to check that with the macros. Now, I'm going to take this sort by vendor, and let's click on it, okay? And let's look at it for a moment. Just right-click on it. And you've got some ways that you can edit it and edit the format of it. You can edit the text, you can copy it, you can group it, and you can assign a macro to a form. So let's do this. Click on Insert, and let's find Insert a Shape, okay? And we'll find that there. I want to find my recommended, find a shape. And here's some right here. And I'm just going to put in a star. Okay. Now I'm going to do the shape, and I'm going to come down here. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. I'm just playing around with it a little bit. And I'll insert my star. Okay. Now if I want to, I can put shading in it, coloring in it. I can format it however I want. But now one of the key things I want to do, if necessary, is I want to click on this, all right, and I want to try to get, is it going to play nice with me or not? I want to assign a macro to it. Okay, there it is. If you right click on it enough times like I did, you'll see assign macro. See it? Okay, now click that. And you'll see the assign macro dialog box. Okay? And we've got this point star click. Now, if we want to, we can rename this to something that makes sense to us, like those three below here. Okay? Now we've got the fast arrival, the slow arrival, the vendor sort, and we're going to, instead of this, we're going to call this just fun, F-U-N. Okay? And we're going to click new. All right, and we're going to go into the project area where we have these macros. Now, let me take this for just a minute and open this up a little bit for you so you can see. These are just simply, we're recording keystrokes, and once they're recorded, we save them. Now, to get out of that, just click up here on the Microsoft Excel view, okay? And we're good to go. Now, I'm going to click on here again, and I'm going to assign a macro to it. And I've got the fun macro, okay? And I'm going to click edit. And I can go in if I want to and edit it. We're going to have a subroutine. The stuff that I showed you at the bottom of the spreadsheet where we have all those terms and those cell ranges and all that, that's what we've got. That's what we end up with in here when we record the keystroke, okay? It's just about recording keystrokes. Now, I want to click on data. And let's see, is it going to be the data, the view, or the formulas? Because I want to create the macro. And I've got my picture here. So let's just go back over here, and because I want to find, it's been a little bit since I've messed with this because I just don't do these very often. So let's look at page layout. And okay, I want to do the view. Here we go. If you click on view, okay, and then on the far right you should see macros. You see it? Okay, let's click that. And we're going to record a macro. Okay, everybody with me so far? I apologize about messing around. Record macro. Now, what this is doing is it's recording our keystrokes. Now, just to make for sure, let's go through the dialog box. I'm going to put fun 1. Okay. Now, the next is a shortcut key. If I want to have a shortcut key for this macro, I can do so. It doesn't matter whether I do or not. The next step for me is I can store the macro in this workbook, or I have some other options. Doesn't matter. Usually we're going to stick with this workbook. Everybody with me so far? Okay. And then if we want to, we can put in a description of some type. And the other macros that we have there, for all intents and purposes, we're ready. We can, whatever keystrokes we do, we're going to record basically what we're after. I'm going to click OK. All right. Now, if you click here, you're going to see If you go back up to the top there and click, you're going to see stop recording. People can get kind of nervous when you do this because you think, oh my goodness gracious, it's going to record your keystrokes, okay? So don't worry about that because the machine will wait on you. So you don't have any kind of pressure or anything that you have to do anything. So we're still recording, okay? So I'm going to come up here to the top and I'm going to come to cost per order and I'm going to put cell 8, pardon me, cell H8, and I'm going to come all the way down, okay? And I'm going to go click home and I'm going to do the auto sum. Okay. So it's giving me the sum of those orders. With me so far? Now, if I want, I could do some other mathematical work with this. I could get the average, blah, blah, blah. But it's just recording my keystrokes. Now, these sorts that I did, the slow and the fast vendor sorts, I basically just did a custom sort and recorded the keystrokes as I did it. Now, chapter, I think it's 25 in the Excel book, or maybe I can't. I'll have to look here for just a second. It walks you through step by step by step, but it's not that hard of a thing to do. So we recorded these keystrokes, okay, so far. Now, let's go back over and we've just done that. And I'll click back on view, okay? Is it review data or view? It's data. And click on macros, okay? And click stop recording. All right, now we stopped the recording. Now let's go back up and click on the macros button and you'll see these macros that we've worked with. There's the fun one. I don't know what we did with that. I don't think we did much at all. Here's fun one, okay? And let's run it. And click run. And there's our data at the bottom. We can go back up into the macros and let's run the slow arrival. Okay? And it gave us the slow arrival. So it just simply copies our keystrokes. That's all it's about. Okay? Now, I've got fun one, and let's click step into it. And you'll see this is working at the Visual Basic level in Excel. And if you've ever heard anybody talk about Visual Basic or Visual Access, that's what's going on. And notice take a look at this. This is just using Visual Basic language. Maybe you've seen it or not, but here's the name of the macro. These are comments, okay? And so we have this thing called Fun1, and then we have all these active windows, and we have a range, H8 to 74, and we have an active cell where we do the sum. Now we scroll down, back up, and we're done. And if I wanted, instead of equal sum, I could put equal average right there and edit that macro. Okay? These are just very simple things. And now what will happen is when you go to work, you're going to have an application on your desktop that will do this for you. So you won't have to do this based upon whatever your dashboard, whatever key performance indicators that you're going to be working with. So and remember, if you're working out here, go back up to and you're back to the Excel view. Now there are some people who live and die. They totally customize their Excel, and there are also macros for access. I don't think they're all that great, because if you want to, you can always just write the code to get done what you want. But in Excel, if you really want to automate it or customize it, you can do so. Now, let's scroll down here to our star, and we're going to assign a macro to it, and we're going to assign Fun 1. Now we'll click OK. If I want to, I can right-click it, and I can go ahead and I can edit the text. I can do the formatting, and I can add a descriptor. So I'm going to add a descriptor, edit text, and it's going to be Fun 1. Okay? And I can change the color, the font, all that business. So I can automate these types of things. As I said before, this will probably be done for you when you open. If your company is fairly substantial in terms of size or savvy, you're going to open up a screen and they'll give you the KPI. These are called key performance indicators based on your level, what you do, etc. And you'll see them. Boom, they'll be there. And those are actually, what those really are nothing more than macros embedded in a spreadsheet application it might be based on Excel. It's probably based on SAS or one of these other commercial products. And you'll just click and boom, you'll have it there. But I wanted you to see that. Or if you're out there and you're working and you use Excel for some tasks, okay, then this is a way to automate those tasks. You don't have to mess around with doing this all the time. Like with the Fun 1, I can go back up here. I'll sort by slow. I'm going to sort by fast delivery. Okay. And then I can sort by vendor. I'll come back down here and I'll click on 1. Okay. About all there is to it. Now, like I said, the textbook provides you some very detailed step-by-step things, processes. And let me get this down here for just a second. I'm not going to save it. Okay. And you'll notice this red bold. And if you look at the suffix of that file name, you'll see it says XLSM. That means it's got a macro. Okay. Now you have to be careful about them for a simple reason. Macros are places where people can put script or code that can create some real problems. The technique is called an SQL injection. And what they'll do is they'll go into where you've got keystrokes, for example, in your macros, and they'll add some other commands in, and bad things happen. Now the red bow, so when you see an XLSM, you're getting a first warning of this has got a macro, then you enable the editing, and then you get another security alert to make sure that you realize that you've got some stuff that runs automated in there. Now the red bold file, that also walks you all the way through, back through, you can see that figure 89.1 to 89.9, and that's over in those practice over in the second continuous. That's over, the file is over in the second set of zip, the second zip file. Now let's go over here for a moment and take a look at it. Okay, and I'm going to go back up here to the Excel file, to the and over here to file source, and it's chapter 89, and they show you how to record macros. I'll just go over there for you, and they'll walk you through. They do a very good job. Why you need them? What are they? How do they work? They show you some ways, if you want, you can customize the ribbon on Excel. Then they walk you through the process of recording the macro. Okay. The shortcut keys, storage. And again, this is to automate certain tasks. So if you've got, like, you get daily sales data, and you're supposed to get the sum of it, or let's say you get data, maybe you're working at a really small place and you get the sales data and you're entering, and you have to enter them for that day, and maybe they want the sales total for the month, you want, or you want some average or something like that. You can use a macro to automate that process and save yourself some time. Now, I don't recommend that you get too crazy about it. Here's the red bulb. But if you, again, it's a resource that's there for you to use if you care to use it. The truth is, when you go out, you're going to be working with commercial products that'll do a lot of that. Now, I want to show you something, though, because I think it's important for you to see this. Sometimes spreadsheets, data, some of this programming can look very, very foreboding and a little bit scary and maybe a little bit beyond your capacity. That's simply not true, okay? I'm just going to tell you that right now. Most of the programming, if you want to go learn a program, there are all kinds of, like if you want to learn Python, there are many, many sources there are many, many sites out on the net that will walk you through that and teach you Python. Or you can take it here if you want, or take it to a junior college or somewhere like that, or a community college. And what you'll find out is that you'll typically have an editor box and you'll have some scripting. And once you start to learn that scripting and understand it, you'll go, oh, I can do this. Now, maybe you've done some coding already. Many of you probably have. But let's take a look at what's going on here. These green, the little green light, the green lettering are comments. So they're not a command or anything for the machine. They're for you and for me to say, hey, what did I name this? What's going on here? Got that? Now, if I were to ask you, is there a keyboard shortcut for this? Yes, there is. Control Shift R. So you could use that. I recommend that you do what I just showed you, and that is insert a shape, okay? Format the shape how you want and assign it to the macro, so it's just, you simply click on it and it happens. You got it? Now, let's walk through here. And this is with a selection. And here they're telling us the font we've selected. It's Calibri, it's bold, size 11. And we're not gonna have any strike through, superscript, subscript, all those falses say we're not gonna use any of that. Our default here is Calibri 11 bold. You see it? Now you know as much Visual Basic for Excel as 99% of the population on planet Earth. It's that easy to do it. It's designed for people who want to work at what we call a project level or a subroutine level that's separate from the stuff that's already in Excel and of all of its functions, etc. The keystroke method is probably the easiest because it records it. But you can go in there if you want and you could edit that code. And you might want to try to play around with it a little bit and see what you get. Then it says, okay, are we going to use shadow? No. Is there an underline? Well, it looks like they've got some kind of underline style. It says XO, it says style none. So I guess it doesn't have any style. Color, is this a color? 255. That's in a chart. And then a tint and a shade, none of that. And a theme, that's the Excel theme font. And then it says we end with, it's going to walk us through that. And once that's done, it ends. Visual Basic is a little quirky in the sense that if you look there at the end with, if you've done any other programming or scripting, playing around, you'll notice typically there's some kind of a command, something that happens just right before the end that signals we're going to end it. Visual Basic just says, hey, we're done. Okay? And that's all that's going on there. You could go and look at the macro we created this morning. You could go look at the other macros I've created before in that one file. Same story. This is just to show you one of those conveniences. And the red bold, I like that because it walks you through the whole process of developing a macro, running it, the whole bit. Okay, now here's another one. This is a subroutine. And you say, why is it called a subroutine? It's a subroutine because it's not a primary routine or code or function in Excel. Excel's primary stuff is to provide you a view, to do functions for you, mathematical functions, etc. And it has a set box of stuff it does. Now what you're doing is coming along and tailoring and adding your own little boxes of stuff that you want to do. If you look at this, you're going to see, okay, it's you've got the name data, it's teal, and that's it's a macro, and you've got a keyboard shortcut, and that's Control Shift A, and then you start with a range, that's A1, and then you have an active cell, and in that you're going to put Wayne. It'll put Wayne, pardon me, the text, and then you select cell B1, and in that you're going to use a function. Notice that on active cell dot formula R1C1 equals, and puts it in quotes, equal today, parentheses. What that says, you're going to put the person's name, Wayne, and then you're going to date time stamp that spreadsheet, and it'll give you today, parenthesis means, boom, what is the date today? Now, folks will use this, as I said, to date and time stamp it. So every time you would use it, you're going to date and time stamp it, okay? And then you might take a screenshot of it. You might go ahead and save that sheet and then make a copy of it for the next day, etc. Just depends on what you're going to be doing with it. But the date and time stamp provides verification of when you were in there working with that file. Got it? And as you walk through here, you're going to see the range B2, and then you select, and that's the end of the subroutine. All right. Again, if you understand this, you'll be in a better position to communicate with IT people if something's not right for you and what you're working with. You'll have a sense of how those things are that pop up on your screen when you open up your desk or your tablet or whatever your employer has for you, or maybe even your phone, and you'll have a sense of where did this all come from? The other is you may be working at a small company or a small organization that says, we all use Excel, and we have an expectation for you to be able to create some macros and give us some data just simply by pressing the button. And that's what the macros are all about. If you scroll on down through here, you'll see we record it, okay? And then when we're through recording the macro, boom. When we record, we click on the red button, and then when we're through, we're finished. We just click that button and it's done. And then we go in and we can view the macro dialog boxes that has all of those. And they have a nice example here for you. Now you'll notice up here, if you look up in that code box, you'll see it says general. What that says is this is a general subroutine that we've got, but this is something that you as an end user have added in to Excel. Now they do this for security purposes, to make sure that when people are sending each other Excel files, there's the black box. That's all of the authorized functions, features of Excel. And then if you add some other kinds of script in, it identifies them. This is the name, date, relative. And you can see the subroutine, okay? And then you see the comments, those are the green marks. And the name of the macro. Then it shows you the active cell. You select, it's literally copying your keystrokes, and then you in the subroutine and you got it done. Just like we did with the little fun one. Now I also like this. There's one of the reasons I like this, because you'll run into some of this out at work. You might work for a small company and the boss says, "Can you create macros?" And you can say, "Well, I kind of remember," and you can go back and bone up and do it, because you're not going to remember everything in this course. One of the other reasons I like to encourage you to look at this is very simple. There are some of you who probably, if you put your toes in the water, might find that you enjoy writing code. You might want to take the Intro to Computer Science course. You might want to go out on the internet and to go to some of those sites that are out there that will teach you things like Python. I think I probably shared this with all of you the other day. On a regular basis, I go out and I look at places like monster.com. You say, why do you do that? Because I want to see what is it that employers are after for a person who says, I have a degree in marketing. And it's been a remarkable change in the 12 years I've been here, because today they want you to understand search engine optimization. They want you to understand digital marketing and advertising. They want you to understand big data, maybe be able to run what we call R programming. My head blew up when I saw it. And thankfully, Dr. Green's here, and that's his thing. He's into all of that. So that when you leave here, and if you're a marketing major, you can go out and apply for a job, and someone will say, have you done BISS? You could say, yes, I've worked with it. It's the same for anybody in the college. When you go out and if an employer says, have you worked with databases? You can say, yeah, I've worked with databases. I've worked with Microsoft Access. I've worked a little bit with Oracle, because I had some Oracle things. I've worked with SAS, Visual Basic. An employer's going to go, wow, I've got a person here who's ahead of the curve. Okay. I looked the other day at Monster just to see what are the qualifications for an entry-level financial analyst. They want you to have all the finance background, but on top of it, I saw time after time, they want you to be able to use R programming and Python. Why? So you can go out and collect all this stuff we call big data, and you can write code and programming and applications, apps, that will harvest that data and allow you to take it and analyze it. Now, maybe some of you have had a course in R programming. If you haven't, you want to take a look at it. I've taken about 3 or 4 courses in it, and R programming is designed to deal with all kinds of data that were really never meant to be put into a database as we envision, or a spreadsheet with columns and rows. R programming lets us deal with that because it can handle the number of cases, and it has some applications that will let us assign certain data to certain columns, or what you would call a dimension. And I was struck because it was really a course for people who work in the sciences. But that was the first one. But then when we got to the third course, it was all business examples. And you wouldn't believe the stuff that's out there, that if you can harvest it, some really incredible insights. It's great. It was fantastic stuff. So if you get the chance to learn some coding, you need to do so. Some of you are going to find you're probably pretty good at it, and you might go, that's something I want to think about doing down the road. As we go on down here through, they're going to walk us through. Here's figure 8912, and they explain each of these to us, each of these comments here in steps. And then they walk you how to work with a pivot table. And then they give you some problems. This is the thing about this is it's easy. It's kind of a different take on Excel, kind of a fun thing to mess with. But again, if you were put into a situation where you really needed to be able to automate, you can do so. Now, I'll go back over here to, this is the chapter 12.1, and let's go back to the modules for a moment. And we'll go down here, and like I said, we're working ahead. This is module 12. And, pardon me, a case 12. And so you could upload it. You could upload the red bold as well if you cared to do so. Okay. Now we are working ahead, so don't get confused. As I said before, we're working ahead so that you can have time near the end of the semester when I give you some big projects, and you can have time to work on the finals that you can do that. One of the things I'm going to have you do at the end of the semester is I'm going to take you through an exercise in geospatial analysis and have you do some work with that in terms of mapping. Be kind of an interesting little thing to do. And sometimes I always try to encourage everybody to say, hey, think about that as something you might want to learn or learn more about. Let's look at red bold and let's download it for just a second. As I mentioned, it's over there in 89. And so we'll download it. Okay. And I'm going to enable the editing. It's in a protected view. And I'll enable the macros. Now I'm going to save this to my desktop. Okay. And I've got red bold to make sure it's on my desktop. Throw it down there. Okay. Now, they'll walk you through that, but basically the macros, what they're doing is they're just setting up the coloring and the font on these figures. So we click red bold, and it will do that for us. All right. Now, if we want, we'll click view. Let's do that. We can click view. And we'll see the macro. And then click on the macros and we'll click View Macro. There's red bold that was in the text. Okay? And then if we want to, we can click Edit. If we wanted to change it, do some editorial work, we can. But another thing we can do is we can click Step Into. Okay? Now the Step Into here is essentially the series of screenshots that you had over in the textbook. And it's just kind of a baby little example. That's why I like the case study I've got there for you, because it's actually something fairly useful that you could do if you've got to look at, you know, who gets this stuff to me the fastest. So instead of having to run a custom sort 2 or 3 times, you just click the button and you're good to go. And there's the same information that was there. You see it? Again, I would encourage you, play around with something. If you've got a whole bunch of numbers and you have to do statistical analysis of them, you have to get a sum and then an average and standard deviation, all that stuff. Try it, because boom, you click it and you'll get it. Of course, you know, if you've got the data already entered in there, well, if you've got a whole bunch of columns of data, you might want to use it anyway if you just want to have it computed for you instantly, or as instantly as it can get. And as always, you know, you don't have to get freaky when you go down. Why am I at? Just click back on the Excel, and it takes you right back up here. But that's all that we're doing here, is we're just, you know, putting in certain colors of font. It's a little step in the water, and it's okay. I don't like it as much as the case I've showed you today, where you were sorting by vendors, because that lets me show you that not only the programming, or pardon me, the Excel, the spreadsheeting stuff, are about doing macros, but some business stuff involved there in that case as well, in terms of the timing of the arrival of goods. Okay? Now, and we'll go back up here. We'll throw that down there. And now that's going to ask me, I'll move these back here. So do I enable editing? Yeah. And now it's out of protected view. Now there's also the makeup sort temp, and that's over in the templates over there in chapter 25. You can take a look at them as well. Now I timed this because I knew that today being Thursday before break, if I had 10 people here, I'd be fortunate. The campus seems to be vacated and many people are heading out now or skipping your Friday classes, who knows? And I understand that you're on spring break and you're headed off to, I know, do good deeds and so forth, not engage in any partying or anything like that, but to go and do good deeds. And I believe in you. Nonetheless, we've pretty much done what we needed to see there. And again, the red bolt is a great example because they walk you through step by step using the macros. Okay. Then we're going to have one final Excel case left. And that one is, we're going to work with what I think is probably, except for the optimizer in Excel, the most powerful tool that we have, and that's the pivot table. As you've heard me mention before, the holy grail for all of this is that I get an application, one application that will let me get all the benefits of a database and all the benefits of a spreadsheet. Now, unless you've been doing some advanced coursework and so forth, it has yet to really dawn on you how powerful databases are as far as a technology. And I understand that's just a function of experience. But once you see what they can do, and then if you can combine that with a spreadsheet where you can do the analytic or mathematical analysis, you're running hot. Let me show you something. This is just an article I found the other day. Let me say this also. I want to encourage you to make it a habit to go over and take a look at some things like Harvard Business Review online. Go and take a look at Stanford's online, their publications. Why? So you can see MIT has some excellent has an excellent resource. I think it's the Sloan Management Review. Why? So you can see what the best minds in business are thinking about. So you can see what the people at the top companies are talking about, and you're tuned into that. Okay. If you aspire to do that, then it's pretty simple. You know, you can learn how to dress, and you can go to etiquette dinners, and you can go to Enactus every day of the week. But the bottom line is, if you get the job and you can't produce, you're out of luck. So you better have some steak with a sizzle. And one of the ways you get that, or you're thinking like those folks are 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, look at those publications. Now, I'm going to show you one that I read almost every day. I know this will throw many of you into a tizzy. Oh, he reads the New York Times, a kind of communist tizzy. I understand. New York Times business section is the best in the world. Absolutely, totally, no question. They have probably their best section is the deal book, which is kind of the deal book is about the mergers and acquisitions that are going on. The big ones are going on at Wall Street. You say, well, why would I care about that? It's pretty simple. Follow the money. If you're investigating bad people, follow the money. If you want to see what's going on out there in business and what's going to be the next wave of startups or the next wave of directions that companies will go, follow the money. And how you do that is you say, okay, what are the people on Wall Street putting their money into, particularly the venture capitalists and those types of funds? Where are they putting their money? It's interesting. Right now, because there's such a shortage of housing in the United States, the big money, the venture capitalists, are putting their money into buying up houses. to use for rental units. And I know because I've just got, well, it's been a few years now, but I sold a house to a company that called me and said, how are you sitting in your equity and what would you want? I said, well, why are you? And they said, because we like to buy homes, do a little tweaking with them and rent them. They're borrowing money probably at a venture capital fund. Like some of those people are borrowing money at 2%, 3%, and they're renting it out. They're using rentals to people, and as if those folks are paying those rentals have a note where they're paying 8 to 10% on interest. Now, who's making a killing? They are. And so follow the money. So the deal book is a great place to say, okay, where's the money going? Now, and you also get some really good stuff in terms of like this thing that's going on with Boeing and the 737. And I want to find this one article that I came upon because it just absolutely blew my mind. They do a lot of good things with there, but let me go to the technology and see if I can find that. Okay, hang on a minute. And I should have saved the link. Let's see. But the article is, here's the gist of the article. It was about facial recognition technology, which is essentially uses a database to find people. Now, unbeknownst to the public, or most probably the general public, is the fact that large retailers, and Saks is probably the one that does it the most, use facial recognition technology, and they'll go to databases that are kept on people like shoplifters, petty thieves, folks of that. They'll get those data for a given locale, and they'll put them into their data recognition system. So when somebody walks in the store, they're alerted because the faces match. Most people don't know this. Now, what they're talking about, the next step for them is to use facial recognition as a way to have the store personalized for you, or a convenience store, or anywhere else. So you have an app on your phone, for example, okay? You have an app on your phone, and let's say it's OnQ. It's just a gas, and OnQ already knows that you like to buy a 64-ounce Diet Dr. Pepper with 3 large Musketeer bars and 6 bags of barbecue potato chips, some pork rinds, maybe some cigarettes, and you're good to go. So you have your app and you press, and it will show you where you can go get it in the store. It will already have your bill totaled. So when you walk up there, boom, they take your total and you're gone. Saks is going to use it to figure out, okay, where do you go in our store when you're here, and what can we try to sell you? What do you want to buy? And then build their inventory off of that. It's a fascinating article, and it just absolutely blew me away because here it is, the store using facial recognition technology, which is a database, and using an app on your phone, which is really nothing more than a small little link to a server with a database to tailor your experience for Saks. Pretty cool, huh? So you could basically place a reservation for a certain day and time and show up there. Again, you'll want to find that article. I'll go back and find it, and I'll post it because it was absolutely blew me away. Because I thought, wow. So these learning about databases and understanding them, what's happening now is we're using them as a way to tailor people's experience and to track what they do, find out what they're doing. Now, there are ethical problems here that you guys are going to have to work on, okay? But it's a way that we can tailor someone's experience, okay? So if they shop in a certain part of the store, you have an app on there, and it pops up the map, and it says, here's where you are, here's where you go. If you've gone to a museum or a place like that, and they've had headphones that you put on as you go through the museum and you listen about the paintings and all that, that's just a tip of the iceberg. of what these retailers want to do to personalize your experience. Why? Because if they don't, they're going to die. So they've got to make going to the store a really, really incredible, kind of cool experience. Well, folks, I'll tell you what, I think I'm done and you're done. And we've covered what we wanted to. And I'm going to call it a day. I hope you travel safely. And we want to see you back here. So enjoy your spring break. And please, please be safe in your travels. And I'll see you, I guess, a week from Tuesday. All right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you much, folks. Appreciate you being here.